secure with themselves and didn't recognize that they remain as God created them, then we started to create all of these idols out here that we thought added to who we were as people. So an idol of we made idols out of all kinds of things. An idol of a car, and if I bring my car out, then that makes me look like I stand up taller than you. Or idol of a house, and if I bring my house out, it makes me look like I'm taller than you. Oh, and did you see my husband? Or did you see my new hair? Or did you see my new Pandora bracelet? Of course, you have to admire the things that I have added to me to add substance and quality to myself and my life. I mean, it's so like we think it makes us so special. And so we're caught up in this ideology or this idolatry and thinking that somehow the stuff outside of us makes us better people when you remain as God created you. And if you remain as God created you, then you're already all right. You were born all right. You were born worthy and wonderful and perfect like you are. Just because you remain as God created you. And there's nothing that you can do to take away from or add to that because you are as you remain as God created you. A divine idea in the mind of God, the perfect child of God, perfectly loved, perfectly okay. And all those mistakes you thought you made, you didn't make a mistake. It was what you were meant to do. And so if you can in your mind wrap your head around that statement out of the Bible that said that every hair, God knows every hair on your head, even before you were born, knows every hair on your head. I mean, if you can wrap your mind around that, I mean, you know what? And so which means is that already that I know we don't like this idea that we were predetermined, but if already God knows your path, if he already knows, maybe you're right where you always should have been, right where you're supposed to be. You are right where you're supposed to be. And if you're right where you're supposed to be, then all of the stuff that you think is a problem that you're going through is really part of your growth process. And you just, what think is real? So cool, so cool, so cool. Let me read this. Okay, it is an ego trap we fall into when we forget who we are, judging others as less than or better than based on how we see ourselves. Yes, I'm getting better at not falling into that trap, recognizing it for what it is, nothing but a belief in the false self. Thanks for sharing, Sandra. Oh, you're going to bed now. Oh, is it that late, darling? Okay, well, sweet dreams to you. Oh, wait a minute. Sweet dreams is here. Is okay. Yes, sweet dreams. Anyway, so it becomes this thing of yeah, sweet dreams, sweet dreams. Hugs, Grace. Thank you, darling, for being here. So it becomes this thing of recognizing that it is totally possible that you are right on target. You're right where you're supposed to be. You've always been where you're supposed to be. The fact that you're judging against it is really nothing. I mean, it's only something in your mind, and those judgments in your mind can kind of put you in this straitjacket and have you thinking that there is something inherently wrong with you in your life. If you can simply get beyond the judgments that you have about yourself, if you could get beyond the judgments, then you'll see how wonderful life is and how wonderful you are, and get to a place of self-acceptance and self-love, which is really what we're here for. I mean, know thyself, right? I mean, get to know who you are. Yeah. Yes, the guilt part is what the ego wants to justify the dream. Yes, yes, yes. I'm reading off of the board if you're listening and or watching on Ustream or listening somewhere else or wherever you're at. I'm also reading here off of the board, which is on Pal Talk. And if you go into Pal Talk, I think ACMI Gather is still listed up under education and other, and that takes you into the room if you're ever looking for the room. You go into education and then you go into the other category. Yes. Okay. So yeah, if you're ever looking for that, education and then other, and then you'll find the room, and then you can be in the room on the board with all the other folks that are in here and wonderful and sharing. And so yes, ACMI Gather for A Course in Miracles. Yes, 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 yes. So so it becomes this thing, the real thing, just getting to a place where you can love self and accept your oneness with all that is. Because really, I mean, you guys, I mean, this life, all of this stuff that is here for us. Now, forget not, look, I'm looking down at my book like I like to do from time to time. Forget not that it is your Savior to whom the gift is offered. Offer him thorns, and you are crucified. Oh, I love that. Offer him lilies, and it is yourself that you free. Ah, don't you just love that? So, what you do to another, you're doing to yourself. So if you are trying to offer thorns, if you're trying to offer that bitter, some bitter wine to your brother, really you're taking it in yourself. And offer him lilies, and you've set yourself free. You've done it for yourself. Same thing. The holy encounter says yes, absolutely. Um, Okay. Oh, you didn't know how to get here except through your favorites. Oh, okay. That's funny. It's funny because okay, so I'm digressing. I'm getting off of the subject here because I saw this on the board. When I first came into Pal Talk, I did the same thing, and Dove had told me just put it in my favorites. And then one day, I don't know, I was like on a different computer, and I needed to find how to get into the group because the favorites were saved on my laptop, but not on any other computer. So once I had to download Pal Talk all over again on somebody else's computer, and then I had to go in search of, and I think Dove told me that it was under education. I go under education. I didn't see it in the normal things. And then I looked in the little box that said other, and there it was, ACMI Gather Radio. So anybody that's looking for it, always, tell them under education in other. And so at some point, I don't know. Or yeah, if you go to ACMI Gather radio.org, I think Dove, I think you forgot off radio off of there. And okay, access instructions are on the bottom of the homepage. So yes, 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 yes. Oh, it's acmigather.org and not acmigatherradio.org. Okay. Ah, okay. So I always gatherradio.org. Okay, so cool, 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 cool. I have no need to be right. I have no need to, I could be wrong. I could be wrong. I could be wrong. And it's all look good because you know what? I remain as God created me. And so it is, it's just good. It's good. Good, 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 good. Okay, so let me carry on. So it becomes this thing of, really, I'm always like back at this I'm always back at this point of of everything that I see, everything that I look at is pointing me back towards myself. It's not pointing me to look at somebody else's. Remember in the Bible, and yeah, I've read the Bible. I'm not a big Bible person, but for some reason, sometimes it just, it seems like my point of reference goes back there. And it's like you can't get the log out of your own eye for worrying about the splinter in somebody else's eye. And so, really, all of this stuff is pointing you back to look at self, not looking at your neighbor and worrying about what they've got, what they're doing, how they're wrong, because it seems as though that's the first thing that people do when they go into therapy or when they join a group or whatever, they're looking around and they're trying to judge and talk about everybody else without first looking at self. You go into therapy and the first thing you do is start saying, oh, I got this friend of mine that's really doing exactly the same thing that you're talking about right there. Or they go into those 12-step programs, and instead of them worrying about their own addiction and getting themselves clean, they start worrying about everybody else in there. Yes, the ego literally lives by comparison. And so they're so worried about everybody else that they can't get the log out of their own eye. And really, it's all like this camouflage that's there to redirect you, and it keeps our own ego safe. It keeps us safe because if we can project outward, projection, then we don't really have to look inward and see what the real work that needs to happen is. And the only thing that you or I have the power to change is self. And so if I want to change myself, and remember, I remain as God created me, so I'm already all right. It's not saying that I'm not all right, but what it is telling me is that I'm getting this lesson for a reason. The lesson itself is calling me to something higher. And so if I'm walking the path that, like Moses said, that is laid before me. If I'm walking the path that is laid before me, I'm doing what's before me to do. And that might call me to growth. That might call me up to something bigger and something better. And who am I to resist? I mean, I'm saying, I'm always saying, hey, so God, what do you have for me today? Oh, is this the lesson? Is this what I'm supposed to do? All right, let's see where this is taking me. Because one thing is constant. I know we think that the more things change, the more they say the same. Yes, but literally, it is like everything in this universe is in constant motion. And it may be a constant, cyclical motion according to our perception, but motion nevertheless. And so it becomes this state of always knowing that something is always at work in the ethers. My father laying in this hospital bed, it's amazing to me because he's laying there and barely able to do anything because he's just not in control of his body anymore. I mean, just doesn't have the ability to lift himself up or do any of the things that he needs to do in order to get up. And so it's always this struggle, to, like, you need to sit up in the chair, or you need to do this, or you need to do that, because our the natural state of life is to be in motion. Our natural state is to be in motion. Growth is what's real. It's not ordinary to think that it's okay just to be a couch potato. It is it is not ordinary for you just to sit around like a lump on a log. It is natural. It is part of the process of life to move and to grow and to, express. All of this is natural to us. And so you, it's just impossible to be alive and be unchanged because life is happening to you and through you in order to change you and grow you every step of the way. And so this idea that we can kind of go back and keep sucking on that umbilical cord and breathing through an umbilical cord that should have been cut and tied off a long time ago. The idea that some people have of remaining a child and in a smaller in a role that's dependent forever is just not the way that life goes. And so we grow, we change, our perspective changes, and we have to expect that. Not only expect it, but to welcome it with open arms. And because, and because we do, it's like, yeah, we get even more, you know. So the more you open up, I posted this thing a couple, I think it was last week. One of my little things, I like to do my Hootsuite and my Twitter, and post little things up on Facebook. And I said, what cowards we are when we don't let love just literally rip us apart. And through loving, we learn what it means to forgive. We learn what it means to accept people and all their different flaws. I mean, through loving people, through love, we learn so much about ourselves, and so much about, what we perceive to be other people, but we learn really about relationships and the universe and God and all of that stuff when we allow ourselves to love. And I'm not looking and I'm not talking about that love that wants to see absolutely no faults or flaws in somebody else. I'm talking about the real love that just says that, yeah, I see you, I see you, I see you. And yes, ouch, ouch, that hurt. And yes, there's been some things that have occurred in the context of this relationship that has totally ripped me apart and had me put back together again, like Humpty Dumpty. I mean, things like that happen to us, and when we run from that, what cowards are we? And even still, it's like I'm always saying that, even not making a choice is a choice, because then we are at the effect of that choice as well, or we can be at the cause of it. And so I'm calling for good things for me in my life. And I know you may say, oh, Sandra, you've never been married. I haven't been married. I know. That doesn't mean that I haven't loved with reckless abandon. That means that that doesn't mean that what all the things that I do isn't loving. I'm totally loving. I'm totally always like in a space of being challenged on how I see things and how I relate to people and all that stuff. All of it is in there. All of it's good. And I recognize that at every moment God is testing me and saying to me, Sandra, prove to me that you can see as I see. Because I pray all the time, let me see my brother as you see him. Let me see my sister as you see her. And as I'm doing that, it's a challenge for me as well. Even in that, it is this wonderful challenge that says, wow. And when I'm tempted to think that I'm not seeing as God sees, why not? What am I missing? What am I trying to throw in there? And in what ways do I think my opinion is better than God's opinion? What ways am I feeling that? And then I need to check myself on that too. So all of this stuff is about understanding that love is the truth. It's our very truth. And I do remain as God created me, just as you do. And so if I remain and you remain as God created you, then how do I get to this and stay in this place of love? Ah, isn't that beautiful? I don't know. Maybe you don't think it's beautiful. I think it's beautiful. And so who are you to disagree with me? You know? Don't you just love that? So yeah, I just, I refuse to see it as something out of whack. It's all right where it's supposed to be, and it's juicy goodness right where it's supposed to be. And so we get to remain there. You guys, you're not asked to do anything that is outside of your ability to do. I know, you may think that, okay, so I'll tell you about this little thing because I got a few minutes left. I've shared this before, that I used to go through, and I used to think that there was no way that God could possibly be accepting of me because there was so much stuff. I think I talked about this a couple of weeks ago. There was so much stuff that I had and so much guilt that I was up under all this guilt and thinking that, oh, there was so much that was wrong with me. And so there was just no possible way that God could ever be accepting and totally loving of me. But guess what? It wasn't God that was judging up against me. It was me that was judging up against me. Just like it's not God judging up against you, it's you judging up against you. If you decided to see yourself as God sees you or through loving eyes, or stop judging all the stuff about yourself that you think is unworthy of love, if you stop that, then you would see the truth about yourself is that you have never been out of favor with God. As a matter of fact, we can't go forward without you. The sonship of God, that means all of us, all of God's creation, all of God needs you in order for us to all go forward. And guess what? Saying we'll wait. We will wait because the kingdom would not be complete without any of us there, without any one of us missing from it. And so we will wait. We will be here. And I know, it may not be this physical plane of waiting. I mean, we have this thing that we're always thinking that is about this physical plane. It's not about this. Who you are didn't begin when you were born, and it won't end when that body of yours dies. It is not dependent on this form, but rather the spirit that is you. The spirit that is you has always been, and it's always been loved, and it's always been in its divine right place. And just because you have a body doesn't mean that all of a sudden now you're lugging around a whole bunch of junk that you need to feel guilty about. Forgive yourself, love yourself, because guess what God does? God loves you. And so, this whole thing, we went through this Easter season. And it wasn't about reaffirming your sin. It wasn't about reaffirming your guilt, but it's about saying that that price had been paid for and done away with. And if you want to keep crawling up on the cross and crucifying yourself over and over again because you somehow think that you know better, then you're free to do that as long as you want to, until you figure out that it's a useless journey, a useless thing that you no longer need to be subject to. I mean, gosh, how many times do you have to do that in order for you to learn that there is nobody that's standing down there saying, you know what, like some bloodthirsty folks standing there saying, And you know what? And if you think that there are people down there looking at you like that you need to be crucified or something, you know what? Then maybe it is because you haven't set them free. Because what you're perceiving is through your eyes. That's your perception. And it's not the truth because you remain as God created you. Isn't that fabulous? Fabulous, fabulous, fabulous. So I'm down to my last few minutes here. And so let me think of what else I want to share. Okay, so it's funny. I know I'm funny. I'm going to share something. Out of love he was created, and in love he abides, is what I looked down at the page and saw. And so let me read this little section for you right quick, because I can, because I'm here, and because I want to. And I have absolutely no idea what this is saying. Do I always turn to this section? It might be that I do. So let me flip the page over because I see something else. As you look upon yourself and judge what you do honestly, you may be tempted to wonder. Hmm. You may be tempted to wonder how you can be guiltless. Remember, I'm just saying you are without guilt. You have no guilt. All these ideas that you are guilty is all erroneous thinking. You remain as God created you, which means you are guilt free. So you may be tempted to wonder how you can be guiltless. You have sinned in the past, but there is no past. Remember, I shared that. When was that? A week, 2 weeks ago. But there is no past. So in your mind, your perception says that there's something that is past, but the past is gone simply because it is no more. The past ended yesterday, it ended last night, it fell off into the nothingness. So if you heal in this moment, if your mind in this moment is healed, that healing is retroactive. So whatever you thought was before, whatever your mind goes back to, is healed the moment you heal it in this instant. Huh. And so it becomes this thing that there is no past to go back and heal. The past is over with. I've got a friend that is constantly trying to tie people back to things that they did long time ago, that they did when they were younger, or that a mistake or something like that that they've made in the past. He's constantly trying to tie them back there. But remember, there is this ability that we have to create a space, to allow a space for people, for my brother, for whoever, to be different and to be new. And so if we believe that we have the ability in this moment to make a decision, to consciously decide to be different, if you know that to be true, then you have to know that you can change, you can totally do an about face. You no longer have to be that old person that you were. Every moment you're new, every moment you get to be new, to make a new decision. So some of us are so accustomed to the same, like we fall into these ruts, kind of like when you're bowling. You know how there's a gutter there? Some people are just so used to that pull of the gutter that pulls them into that thing that they can't quite figure out how to not go down that path anymore. But trust me, it's a conscious decision that we make over and over again. So I know for me, even in stuff like if I'm going to say that I'm going to do without sugar in my diet, or I'm going to stop cursing, or I am going to stop whatever it is that I decide that I'm going to do. There is this ability that I have, just like you have, to be different, to make a decision, to no longer focus on that. So a couple of weeks ago, I also shared this thing that I was telling friends of mine to do, was to take a rubber band, and every time you found yourself thinking either in the past or in the future, you pop yourself to snap yourself back into the present. So it becomes this thing in the present moment. We have a power to lay down new thoughts, new ideas, new habits, new ways of being in this moment. And that gutter just totally started to say, I'm not going there. No matter what